I'm plotting in my head, I want the story to go over here, and the fact, so I make people in my outline do certain things, and then when I try and write it, I go, oh, it's dishonest, it wouldn't happen this way, and I start to slow down and clog up. And so now I have to come back and say, wait a minute, and I always get in everybody's head, think through their, through their head, and then I go, this is what's wrong, she would never say that, or he would never say that, or do that, or take that position, or whatever it is. And then it opens up again. So I have, control over those skills. And then I got to the place, and this it's almost everything I write, that it's better than the idea that I had. If I can't make a book better than it was in my head when I came up with the idea, then something is wrong. I mean, I almost always find, or teleplay, I almost find, because my skill is better than my ability to divine the idea. Not that I'm the most skilled writer in town, I'm not, but I have enough control over those things for me. And that's why I write for 5 hours a day, because it's so much fun. Because it's like watching something grow, it blooms for me, and very rarely does it shrivel. Very rarely.
You're a really interesting combination of the creative and the pragmatist, which may be, again, going back to the learning disability thing. I was thinking you've written 8 Shane Scully thrillers and seven standalones, 15 books, and you started in '95. So basically you've put out one a year. I think there was one year, 90-something.
Well, this year I've had 3.
Yeah, exactly.
If you count 3-shirt deal, then the July book that I did was, and then this one is 3 in 1 year.
Well,
in one 12-month period.
Right. So you're getting, you've had a high level of productivity. If anything, you're getting more productive. And I find that absolutely fascinating because you're still staying busy, with other stuff. And that argues to me that you are a person who is very disciplined and pragmatic in the sense that, you instead of sitting there waiting for the muse to strike or something, you're writing through it if that's what's needed.
Well, I don't believe in a muse to begin with. I think all of these things, these kind of psychological booga-boogas that writers get caught up in to excuse their, like I run into writers all the time who will tell me, I think I'm burning out. I go, well, what do you mean you're burning out? Well, it's just not happening, this book is just dying on me. I just think my muse has left me. And I'm going, well, unless you're going senile, which could be true,
right?
You own the things that are in your head. The experiences, your life product, you own all of that. It's yours. And if you could do it yesterday, you can do it today. So what's wrong is that you aren't emotionally connected to what you're writing. That's all.
That's a really good point. See, I've always thought that newspaper reporters were exceptionally good as novelists, not because they were necessarily better writers, but they had trained in a school where they had to produce X amount of material, get the story, whatever it might be. I mean, a lot of them. There are a bunch of them that...
Michael.
Well, Michael is an absolute ace example. John Sanford is a wonderful example. Denise Hamilton. I mean, there are a lot of people who have trained in... And Jeffrey Deaver, who, wrote for the Wall Street Journal, you never hear them say, I had writer's block or whatever it all is, because they learned, And
I think it's an excuse for not working. Now, look, there are a lot of times when I'm plotting, when I'm sitting here going, what the heck am I going to, and I don't want to just fall into some kind of plot routine, so all my plots are the same, and they're, I know what needs to, I know I need that complication, that second echo, I know I need all that stuff, but, plotting is the hardest part of novel writing when you're actually sitting down there and figuring out what the book's going to be and what every scene is going to be. And I write about a 70-page outline before I ever start the novel. Not for my publisher, just so I know the architecture of my book is solid, and I know I want to write it. At the end of that 70 pages, because in the writing of that outline, I'm seeing into corners of rooms that I didn't even know when I was making my beat sheet, and now I'm writing 70 pages. I'm going, this is going to be great when I get to this. It's going to be great when I get to this. So I'm getting all the way through my 70 pages. I'm still not promising that I'm going to write the book. I'll write a 70-page outline, and then it still has to meet the test of, do I love this enough to spend half a year on it? Because I can write that 70-page outline in 10 days, a week, 10 days. So now do I love it enough to write it. And I actually have a 70-page outline of a Shane Scully novel called The White Shark Cafe that I wrote this outline 2 years ago, and I've now written 2 books ahead of it. Now I may still write it because it's an acceptable novel, but something has told me not to write it, so I haven't. And
maybe it'll evolve differently as you think about it.
It
may be a story that is sort of stillborn because it wasn't yet its time.
Or maybe there'll be something that I'll come up with tomorrow, or I'll read in the newspaper. I could stick that in the White Shark Cafe, and that's what it needs.
I'm sure you're right that the emotional connection, that's a huge commitment. You don't spend that much time with a lot of people other than perhaps your wife and children. 6 months with somebody. Gosh. We just spent 3 weeks with our grandchildren and children going around South America, and I could see my husband beginning to twitch towards the end. I loved your football analogy because the poor man had to watch the Cardinals, its first playoff game, from ESPN, someplace off Puerto Montt, Chile, having room service. I was thinking yesterday was a very emotional day here in Phoenix because the Eagles lost, and
Yeah, I'm a big Cardinals fan.
Wow.
I have 2 pro football teams that I root for. It's the Cardinals and the Chargers, because we don't have a pro team in LA, and they're the closest ones. I can't get behind the 49ers, which are probably a little closer than the Cardinals, but and then Matt Leinart is your clipboard carrier here, and he used to
Kurt
play.
Warner doing great stuff.
Oh yeah, but I was.
Leinart used to play
at USC,
right?
And I rooted for him all those years at USC, and one day he'll be a great franchise player for you. And Kurt Warner, what a great season he's had.
It's an interesting
Fitzgerald,
story.
Oh, they're amazing.
I grew up in a football household. My dad was an All-American, and when I came in yesterday, Rob said the score is 7-5, and I said, who scored the safety? And I saw him do a little dip there, like, safety, about that, because men tend to think women are not quite so into this. But anyway, it's an improbable story, because if you tried to write the Cardinals' playoff season as a book, where would you go?
You would have a great sports story.
Right. Now, I also, because I was fascinated with listening to you, there are some wonderful features on your website, and I don't know why I'm pushing that today, but for some reason it really caught my attention. I wanted you to talk a little bit about promotion, and I thought your Scully's Tour of Duty, the idea that you could use some television techniques, visual images, and all of that to root people in your books was really inspired. Of course, you have the resources to do it and the skill set to do that as well.
Well, I have to admit, that I kind of stole that idea from Michael Connelly, who, on his website, shows a lot of the actual locations that he writes about in his novels. And I thought, it's funny. It's one thing to describe it. It's another thing to show it. So we came up with the Tour of Duty feature on our website. Hats off to Michael Connelly, which basically did the same thing, which it takes you to the various locations that that are written about in the novel, and then we also do a little video clip, which is sort of like a teaser for the book, that we photograph like a movie trailer, and that's been very successful, I think.
It's interesting that Los Angeles, more than any other city right now anyway, in literature, is the one that evokes all these images. I think it goes back to Chandler a bit. Michael and I, years ago, first book that Poison Pen Press ever published was nominated for an Edgar. I was the editor, and the reason I was really happy about it was based on papers delivered at a conference we had, where we had writers of today writing about classics, like Harry Keating wrote about Dorothy Sayers, and Joe Gores wrote about and spoke about Dashiell Hammett. Michael spoke about...
We're talking about Michael Connelly?
We are. Michael Connelly came and spoke about Raymond Chandler, and it was all extemporaneous. The other people had all prepared papers, and it was all going to be simple. I had sat and listened to Michael, because I was the MC of this whole thing, speak about Chandler for 45 or 50 minutes, when everybody said at the end of the conference, that's it? We did all this work and it's gone? And then I said, in my inspired moment that got me into publishing, why don't we do a we'll put all the papers together and we'll publish them in a book, and then everyone else can share this great experience. And there was this sort of look on Michael's face, and I realized
he had been talking off the top of his head.
Exactly. And so I said to him, if I can recreate this from memory, will you edit it and we'll put it in? And he said, looking dubious. Okay.